My name is Wenzel Carter. I'm a Ngarrindjeri from the Coorong in South Australia. I got awarded a Winston Churchill Fellowship in 2024, and my project is called Corny Yannon. Corny Yannon is Ngarrindjeri for men talking, and that's about men talking in prison. Me talking to the men in prison about what they want to do when they get out. I built a relationship with these guys in prison. I've been doing it now since 2018. I'm always learning stuff about what I can do to help the men in there. A couple of years ago, I went to the Lowitja conference in Cairns, and I go to these conferences to connect with other Indigenous organisations and listen to all the presentations that could help me with my work. And I met a man there, a native Hawaiian, Mark Patterson. He was a prison officer for 19 years and he got put in charge of the women's prison. He said, these women shouldn't be in here. His model, the Hawaiian model, is the second best in America at the moment. As soon as I heard him talking, I thought, I can learn something from that fella, you know. I'm going to go over there. And then when I got awarded the Winston Churchill Fellowship, that was my trip. And I wanted to go over there and find out. What drew me to this topic, I've had personal experience. When I used to go to school, I'd walk to school, you know, in the morning. I'd drop into my auntie's place and I'd see all my cousins, you know. They were out stealing cars and getting drunk, you know, and I'd go over there and I'd wake them up. I remembered that all my relatives that went to jail, and most of them now have passed away or they're on a heap of medication. There's not many of them left. I come from a family of 7. One of my brothers lived in jail all his life, and you might as well say he died in there. And another brother committed suicide, and another brother was an alcoholic. These are the effects of incarceration, and that is why I wanted to do this. My first solo trip overseas was to Hawaii, and I tell you, I was looking forward to it. And it started on the 1st of May to the 30th of May. And it was my first trip overseas where I was going on my own, you know. I was in Honolulu and I went to a conference, a trauma-based conference called IVAT. They have it every year. And I went to that and I saw lots of therapy, trauma therapy. I stayed a few days at my host's place, and then he organised for me to go to clean and sober houses. I went and stayed there, and I talked with the men and I see what they done and how they lived in their houses. It was amazing. It was amazing.
My name is Les Estrella. I'm the founder, president, and CEO of Going Home Hawaii. The question is, how do you get the referrals and how do you get people from the jails and prisons and those who are justice involved into your program? First of all, you have to establish yourself and be recognized and respected by the supervising authorities, the courts, probation, parole. You have to be accepted as a program or organization that does good work. And this is the most important part of the people inside, the inmates, those who are incarcerated, those who are justice involved and sentenced and are living in the jails and prisons. They have to say to each other, this is the place to go. They can help you.
They could stay in those houses for as long as they had to establish themselves back in society. They could stay there for a couple of years. And once that house got filled up, then they would go and get another house, and then the same thing that could happen there, and then they'd have to go get another house. And that's what they did with the men and the women houses, clean and sober houses.
So if we find a place where it's relatively cost effective, cheap, then we'll want to see if we can make it work. So the formula, like I said, is basically self-sufficient. So your program fees that people pay, not rent, program fees, because it's not a landlord-tenant lease. Program fees that they pay gotta equal or exceed the amount that you need to owe to pay for it. Staffing is gotten through grants. So we have grants and other types of revenue to pay for staffing. That's your basic formula. And you can open as many houses as you like if you have that formula. Healthcare and healing and non-punitive. That's really what...
I can see that in them.
It is, and that's what you got to do is heal. Heal from trauma, heal from abuse, heal from being a victim, heal from hurting victims. Yeah, reconciliation.
Support.
You have to have support. You cannot do it by yourself.
Les Estrella and Ezra, they explain how they did it. We have to get more clean and sober houses. I know when they go to the clean and sober houses here, that they only have about maybe 6 months, 3 to 6 months, and then they have to go. But these houses, they can fill them up, and then they go get more houses, and this is what society's got to help with, the community, and to help run these houses with programs in connection with community and Aboriginal organisations. When funding is applied for, this is what they use it for. I was amazed that I didn't know before. I didn't know Hawaii was the same age as me. It was 65 years old, but it was in September. It got formed in 1959, and in that year they had a queen called Queen Liliani. She was the last monarch of Hawaii, and when the American Marines came to Hawaii, they were going to shoot everybody. They were going to take over the country, and the Queen said, no. We're going to have a peaceful takeover. And now they've got Hawaiians in the justice system, Hawaiian in the police force, Hawaiian in the Senate, and there's Hawaiian businesses everywhere. This is why the community of Hawaii has played a big part de-escalating prison rate of Hawaii. That was one of the things I was amazed at. And I looked at them and I was in awe of the Hawaiian community. And I looked at them and they're very kind people, they're lower spirit. There was a woman I met over there called Kat Brady. Here we have the lovely Kat Brady. Okay. She was an awesome woman, and she was another doer. And she would recommend bills to the Senate.
The disproportionate incarceration of Native Hawaiians is pretty clear. The Hawaiians are about 20 to 24% of the entire population. Right now, they say that Hawaiians are 39% of the population of incarcerated people in jail and prison. When you walk in there, you know that is not true, that it is 60 to 70%. Majority of people are from very disadvantaged communities. So with the overthrow of Hawaii, they kind of pushed Hawaiians onto land that nobody wanted, dry land. So it was very hard to promote agriculture when there was no water. And I think that kind of intergenerational trauma has led to the disproportionate incarceration of people who are Native Hawaiian, Kanaka Maoli.
Kat Brady, she thought everybody is basically good. It's just society has forced people to do these things. Hawaii had the highest cost of living in America out of all the states, and it's because people, rich people, came to Hawaii and bought very expensive real estate, and this drove the cost of living up. And it was, a lot of native Hawaiians, couldn't afford it.
We decided the best thing we could do would be to set up a commission that had a chair and 4 other members. And at that point, we were pushing for an oversight commission.
Who was pushing?
The community.
Now, if there's anything wrong with the prisons in Honolulu or Arizona, they can investigate those incidences and make recommendations to those. There's a lady that worked in that prison, in that commission, the Prisons Oversight Committee. There was women with lived experience. Their job was to go in and interview the people that were ready to make the journey back into society through the clean and sober houses. And that, I thought, man, that is what we got to do. We got to get that. We can get that done.
Aloha, my name is Kimmy Takata, and I work for the Hawaii Correctional System Oversight Commission. I am the Re-Entry Oversight Specialist. And for re-entry, I look at programs, classifications, making sure that, everything, we want our men and women to have a smooth transition.
Mark Patterson became our warden. And,
what happened?
Well, when Mark came in, he just went around, talked to the women, and he actually looked at the, the population, and he thought, man, I could count it on my hand that there was maybe 3 people who did some heinous crimes. A lot of the women that came in were broken, right? And he saw the population, and he thought, man, everyone here is like, the population here is like, there's a lot of minimum, there's a lot of
there's a lot here that shouldn't be here.
Yeah, exactly. And he said, I need to get them out. And how can I do that? He,
changed a lot of laws.
He did. He changed a lot of things, and he also changed our thinking. And so
when you got a lot of Hawaiians in the justice system, it's amazing what can be done. I know we're pretty thin on the ground in Australia, but we've got to work with what we got. And we know what the problems we had, and we know what the position we're in, but we've got to move from this point onwards. We've got to move forward from this position. We know what the problem is, so let's move forward from this position and do something about it. And like a footy team, we've got to tighten up our game and work all together. The community, the government organisations, and all the Indigenous organisations. Big thank you to Mark Patterson. When the guys leave prison, there's the 3rd step, and that's connecting them to the justice worker, Indigenous justice worker in the community. The 3rd step in the cultural journey before the inmates go back into society.
Aloha, my name is Mark Patterson. Thank you for this opportunity to share Hawaiian Ike, Hawaiian knowledge with you on our current circumstances in the state of Hawaii within the American criminal justice system. When you look at the crimes that the Native Hawaiian people are committing in Hawaii, sometimes we refer to it as crimes of survival. As Native Hawaiians, we had a system of agriculture, economics, and social and spiritual beliefs and values prior to Western contact. Once Western contact came, that all fell and was replaced by Western systems that were not favorable to the values and core being of who Native Hawaiians were. This is what we call historical trauma. Yeah, and I'm sure Aboriginals and Native Hawaiians can sit down and we can go through similar history patterns that people suffered from. The introductions of diseases that killed tens of thousands of us, taking leadership and knowledge with them, as well as the political trauma that our people suffered under new governments of colonization. I'll say it now, you'll hear me say it later on, more and more. The relationship that we need to be finding as an Indigenous people is the relationship with ourselves. Find out who we are as Native Hawaiians, as Aboriginals, find out what our values were, and begin to discipline ourselves to look at our world through those lenses and not try to be the Westerner. So until you ask the question, what happened to you? You're never gonna get the right answer to rehabilitate that individual. Yeah. That's why we say in Hawaii, you have to have Hawaiian cultural programs in the facilities, because they have to find out who they are. Because you know, those Western systems that created the opportunities that made them commit crimes, and now you're gonna try to heal them Western style, it ain't gonna work. The answer to our criminal behavior is in the communities. Money should be reallocated not from correctional structures, but to community centers, community programming. Yeah, uplift the communities who want to help. They're there.
When I go to conferences and when I go to communities, Aboriginal communities, I will tell them about this. And I say, we need more elders in the community. Or if we can't get elders, we want respected community people helping out in these, the guys in the prison. From prison to community, back to country again. We've got to make that transition more informed. The people in the organisations, they apply for funding for programs, for certain kinds of programs, and these programs, they can involve inmates, Indigenous prisoners coming out of jail, coming back into community. I want community to be a part of this. They are community. This is where everybody comes from. Community, country. While in Hilo, we had a number of, I took part in community events, and Going Home Hawaii Second Chance event. They do it every year. All the guys that have been in prison and their families, they make up all these signs, and they stand beside the highway there, just outside of Hilo, the main downtown, and everybody goes past. It's like thanking the community and for giving them another chance, a second chance to come back into society.
And as we are here today, it's about second chances. Just remember that you are a person of worth, that everybody matters, that you are here to support each other, that you're part of this community that we're in.
Oh, the fellowship, the Winston Churchill Fellowship, awesome organisation. They organised and planned all of the travel from here to Hawaii to Hilo and back again. It went off, it was like a Swiss clock, and I never missed a beat, and I'd like to thank them for all that. You know, it was amazing. That organisation, the Winston Churchill Fellowship, being a part of this group is just amazing. I went to the medallion night the other night, a couple of weeks ago, and if you need a motivation to help society, go to one of them. Krista, Deb Mallet, Sir William Kilpatrick Church family for sponsoring me to go over to Hawaii. Thank you very much. I would never have gotten this opportunity. And I telling people, you should apply for it. They looked at me and they go, they didn't think I was going to get it. And then when I told them I got it, and they all wanted to go, I said, yeah, well, you know, you can apply next year now, you know. I told you all the Hawaiian people, all the people in Hawaii and Going Home Hawaii, Les Estrella, Ezra, you know, the men at Imiola, Hale, Mark Patterson, Lani Patterson, and Lani's parents, you know, all the Hawaiian mob. My intended audience for this video report is the Indigenous men in the prisons and also the women prison and the Indigenous unit called Yilam, which is a part of Corrections Victoria. I would like them to see this report, and also Rajak, the regional Aboriginal justice groups, you know, throughout Victoria. I would like to bring this to them so that they could have a look at it. I want everybody to work together as a team, and so we know what we got to do. You know, the community is one of the most important parts of this team. I know we've got organisations everywhere, but the community brings it all together.